And welcome to my weekly live stream. I was unsure if the microphone was working properly. Now it is. Welcome and welcome to my weekly live stream. Well, it's the first of the 2024 year. I see Jose's here. Welcome. Thanks for joining. I spent about an hour every week trying to take a look at features, answering questions for people that are live with me here, taking a look at PRs that have been opened, and looking at bugs or features that may need to be implemented in Uno. And this week we're going to take a look at a few things. The first one being the support for a PR that was opened for a system focused visual. So it was a top programmer 77 that has been working on this for a while, and we're going to be taking a look at how to debug this and find out if the PR and review all of this. Then we're going to be taking a look at the analyzer and adding an analyzer. And in Uno, there's an analyzer that takes the code that you've written in your application and tries to figure out if the APIs are implemented or not in the version of Uno that you're using. And figured out recently while troubleshooting a different issue that we were not flagging events that are used. So we're going to be making a change so that those events are flagged properly when trying to use that in your application. And then if we're finished, it's probably going to be an easy one. We are going to take a look at an older issue that was opened about a year ago that was in .NET 7 and may have been fixed in .NET 8. So we're going to be trying to figure out if there's something around this where the current culture changes where it shouldn't be, particularly if you set a language, a culture manually in the app, and it doesn't stay that way for the duration of the application. So that's what we're going to try to take a look at today. So I see Jose already has questions. So the question is, could you talk about some news about Uno and AOT? I'll develop a standalone machine and AOT will be helpful. AOT is something that's been progressing quite a bit over the past few years. It's been I think 5 years now, almost 6. It's going to be 6 this year. So there's already bots that are posting over here. AOT was introduced about 4 years ago, and it's been progressing quite a bit since then. And all the documentation is going to find there is related to the tooling that we're providing as part of the Uno Bootstrapper. And specifically, if you want to take a look at the AOT for WebAssembly, you're going to find that in the runtime execution modes. Let me actually zoom that in. It's a bit too small for some reason. Yeah, and for some reason it was really far. Okay, so the runtime execution mode, so you can change basically the runtime execution mode to be something else but interpreter. So you have 3 modes. You have interpreter, interpreter, and AOT. And a third mode is actually a part of interpreter and AOT, which is the interpreter, which is new to .NET 8. And when we're talking about AOT, we're talking about performance. So performance is key when running with WebAssembly, and by default, if you're not doing anything, it's going to be running with the interpreter. It builds fast, but can be a little bit slower than AOT. So AOT will take your .NET code and will create WebAssembly code out of it, an actual WebAssembly code, and you have to do a bit of setup to allow for this. So you have to install Python and a few other pieces like this so that it runs properly on your machine. And then when you want to change this, you just basically set the Modo runtime execution mode to interpreter in AOT. That will enable AOT mode. Now, know that if you enable AOT, by default, it will try to AOT everything in your application, and it will be super slow. So it will be slow to build. So it could take 20 minutes to build your application if you want to AOT everything. And most of the time, it's not really needed because that's not you may not want all the code that's embedded in your application may not be executed completely. So that's why there's a specific mode that's called Profile AOT. And basically with Profile AOT, what you're going to do is take your application, run it once, generate a profile, then build your app again, and then only what's been executed during your profile. So it basically takes notes of everything that's executed, will be compiled, AOT compiled. And what the advantage of this is that your application is going to be a lot smaller, and will be executing quite fast in portions that you profile. So what you may want to do is just start your app, run as much as you can using your profile, so that it AOTs most of it. That's useful for the user, and then create a profile and use that. One of the example that you have here is the calculator. Let me go to the calculator, or gallery for that matter, but let's go for the gallery. The gallery has that already. So if you take a look at the WebAssembly side of this, you're going to find an AOT profile file here and an AOT for the UI tests. And you can see that the mode in release mode is interpreter and AOT, and it has an AOT profile that's provided somewhere down there, if I remember correctly. Let me search it from here. Okay, so there it is. So you have the AOT profile that's specified here. And then there's another one for UI test. So the idea why we're doing this for UI test is that we want to have a faster build just for UI test, not necessarily the fastest build speed. So we're just making two profiles there. Okay, my audio is low. Okay, that's interesting. Let me see if I could change that. Properties, I can probably change that somewhere. It's already at the maximum, so maybe there's something else that that is changed there. I can probably boost the volume a little bit. Let's see. Let's see if it's better now. I've boosted the volume a little bit by 1 dB. We'll see. Maybe I may be putting myself a little bit lower than that. Okay, so let me know if it's better. So for the rest, I think there's a noise suppression there, but I'll be taking a look at that later on for the next stream. So for now, I'm just going to be closer to the microphone, so that's going to help. So that's where we are right now with AOT. So make sure to take a look at the AOT profiling. And one thing that's also important, and when you go back to documentation, is to take a look at the overview. We got a performance section that's about performance tips, and it lists all you need to know about performance, how to set up your application for performance success. And there's a section down below talking about WebAssembly specifics, like make sure that you're using latest stable, using AOT, maybe enabling the JITterpreter, recording a profile, configuring a GC. That may be something that may be of interest depending on what you're doing, particularly with regards to that particular soft heap. There's also a section about the linker and XAML trimming. So all of that will help you to get to your application to go faster when running on WebAssembly. So there you go. That is for AOT. So let's go take a look at the system focus visual position change. And the issue was that the focus on WebAssembly could move around if the button was translated. So if you set the render transform origin on the button, and if you move it away, then it will place the adorner for the focus when you move through using the tab button on your keyboard. And that's where we had that issue. So we had this contributor that worked on this. And one thing that we added recently, if you've been following Uno for a while, is that because it's WebAssembly, it's pretty easy to take your application and publish it and test the result of this. The thing is that we didn't have that specified as part of the CI. And recently what we added is two things. The first one is the ability to view documentation. So that was something that was actually quite interesting for us. We were making a lot of updates recently for documentation and making sure that we're seeing a temporary staging site for the documentation. So in here, it doesn't matter that much because we're not modifying any documentation. So you can see here that's the documentation compiled specifically for the branch that is for this PR. But the more important part is the fact that there's this staging site specifically for the WebAssembly app. So this one is really the application built for the PR that's published on a temporary site just for the PR and for which we can test the results. So what we're going to do is go and go take a look at the change itself and see what we can figure out and validate that it actually works properly. So first thing first, we can see that there's a test. We can see there's a runtime test. So this is called when a focused element transformed. So we're going to look for this particular one in the runtime test. So this is the where you go to runtime test, and then we're going to start the app and see if it's green. That would be the first test to do. So we can see that it worked properly. It's green. It did a few things. It was too fast. We could probably not see what that does on the UI. But what we're going to do is we're going to execute the test manually to see if it actually works properly and it does what it's supposed to do. So those tests are executed as part of the CI, and that means that Uno is validating itself against all those tests to make sure that in every PR we don't regress in any way, at least for what we've tested. Jose has an additional question. Do you think AOT assemblies are harder to disassemble than JIT assemblies? So JIT assemblies is pretty much just assemblies. That would be assemblies in a standard .NET term. I mean, sure, there may be a little bit. The thing is that for now, .NET assemblies, even if you AOT your content, the assemblies are going to be available anyways, for now at least. There's an upcoming feature that will allow to say that code that's been AOT'd will be removed from the originating assemblies, but it's not enabled yet. So you should not be counting on the fact that AOT compilation is enabled to obfuscate your code. If you want to obfuscate your code, you may want to use something like .fuscator, for instance. That would be one of the ways to obfuscate your code and not count on any native things on a native compilation to obfuscate your behavior is probably not the right way to do it. So that's for AOT and obfuscation. Okay, so now what we are going to do is take a look at the change itself, and I'm not sure if we're going to be able to do that manually because it's doing the testing by itself, so may not be super useful. What we may do is try to take a look at transforming a button maybe somewhere else. So the idea here is that when you do tab, it's supposed to be showing, you see that there's the black rectangle there that follows the tab stop. And when there's something that moves around, it's supposed to be following properly. So I don't know if we have something around transforms. Let's see if I do have a transform. Maybe there's a transform test that does transform with buttons maybe. That one is probably not selectable. No, you can see that it's moving at the top there. Transformation test. Let's see if we can find one. No, that one's not enabled. No, that's not selectable either. Most of those are It just transforms over simple content. That is still not selectable either. You know, if thinking about it, it feels like we should be adding something around because so in Uno, this sample application that's running as part of the Uno tree, if you will. Oh, there are buttons there, but they're probably not transformed, are they? No, that's transforms. Okay, that's not gonna tell us anything. No, that's too simple. Yeah. So one of the ways we could test some of it is using something with maybe including the playground completely inside of the template of the samples app. So the application that you're seeing here. We don't have that yet, so, and thinking about, I think it may make sense to have that, so that we can test all of this further. So maybe we can try it out with scroll viewer maybe. Let's see with the scroll viewer. So we have a scroll viewer here. No, it's not. It's just scrolling the content here, so it's not useful. Okay, so we have those are two scroll viewers, but they're not useful completely because they're not going to be scrolling their content. Those are simple elements, are they? Are they selectable? No, they're not. Okay, so they're not, they cannot be tabbed into. There's just scrolling, art remove. Okay, this is not containing anything that's selectable. Those are not selectable either. Okay. Okay, so I'm not going to test it that way. Oh, that one is doing something very heavy. Oh, that one is interesting. Okay, so there you go. Okay, so the thing here would be that the transform should be going away if you're moving content there. It looks so far it's doing the right thing because the focus is moving properly. Now, if we're actually testing the right thing, that means that we're going to be seeing it should be not working properly in other contexts. So what we can do is go take a look at the documentation for Uno. We have contributing here that talks about testing, creating tests, and we have a link for the run to the sample app somewhere. Samples app. So no, that's not the one. There was a link for this. I changed machine, so I don't have it here. Let me find it out. So there's a separate link that we can use to go take a look at the content. So the samples app is samples app is going to be this link. So I'm going to have it for next time so that we don't have to search for it. This is the samples app. So this is the master version. So this is without the changes that are part of the PR. So if we search for the scroll viewer transforms, scroll viewer transforms. Let's see if I do select one here. If I scroll, does it work? Okay, so it doesn't test that specific behavior. Okay, so one thing that we could do, aside from finding one that actually does something of interest, is probably to have scrollable content. We had the scrollable content is always going to work, so it's not specifically that particular behavior. So if we take a look at the test itself, that's part of the UI test that was added there. We can see that it's validating the transform points and it's moving the focus points to something else. So we're actually validating that the button is moving at the right place, which is quite interesting. And I wonder, now we're talking about buttons, maybe there's something in buttons here. That could actually be something of interest here. So let's say I do this and then I move. Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so we can actually see the issue when we're running here. And I don't know if it's if we do this, we can see that the tab does not follow. And we're in the PR content. I'm not seeing it here, so maybe it's hidden somewhere. Maybe it's because of the fact that there's the focus was lost as a result of moving to that button. So that's probably not useful. This button native, not super useful here. Yeah, it's not super useful. Okay, so we can't really test it for now. The only way to actually test it would be to go and move to I was trying to see if there's a larger page we can try that has moving. So we don't have any. Okay, so the only way to test it for now would be to pull in pull in the branch and test it locally, because we don't have an actual way to validate the behavior. But for what it's worth with the content, it doesn't seem to be breaking anything with regards to what was happening originally. So that's the good part. We can see that the selection, the focus hint is the right one, and it's positioning itself the right way. So that's very good. But we can't really validate that it's actually doing everything it needs. So that means that we're probably going to have to add, if you want to manipulate the behavior of the application using XAML Reader. I don't think we have tests for XAML Reader, by the way. Maybe there is one, but I don't think that's there. We get XAML. No, we don't have a XAML Reader. We probably should be adding one. Anyways, so that's for the test, but it looks okay. It's a PR that is very interesting. So I'm going to be validating that one off the air. Great. So let's go take a look at a separate issue now. The issue was that we wanted to have the analyzers to include validation for the flight stick here. So that would be the event. And to do that, we're going to be going to Uno, and we're going to be taking the unit tests that are part of Uno, the Uno solution. So if you're new to Uno and you haven't opened the solution before, once you've cloned everything here, the first thing that you want to do is make sure that you're editing the cross-targeting override props file. So you can create one from the samples, and then and let me actually copy over the content of that file because it's probably outdated a little bit, and edit the content of that file so that it uses one of the available target frameworks. So the idea here is to make sure that your solution is opening as fast as it should, because Uno is supporting a lot of target frameworks, and we want to only target one when we're developing. It doesn't need to be all targets at once. So the one that we're going to be using for now is the unit tests. We're going to be doing net7 here for now, and we're going to be using the unit test solution. So to see if we have something that we can validate here. Okay, so Uno has the support for this, for analyzers, and making sure that we have something that works properly, and making sure that you can use, when you're writing code, that you can actually use that code, because Uno is implementing the whole API surface from WinUI, And if you haven't, if we haven't implemented parts of that, and that's the case for the APIs that is here, we haven't implemented flight stick support at this time. And we want to make sure that when you write that code, that it is notifying you properly that you should not be using that code. And at this time, it's not doing the right thing. So there are two ways to test this. The first one, and we're probably going to do both. So let's create a small Uno application here. So let's call it event analyzer, Uno event analyzer, and we're gonna test it explicitly using the latest Uno and see if it's doing the right thing. So that version of Uno, the template that I'm using is probably a dev build, so it's probably going to be providing me with the latest developer builds. No, it's not. Okay, so it's a table one. So it's going to be providing, so this is the latest table from Uno, so that you can use. And we're going to be testing that if I put the code from the sample here, from the issue here. Actually, there's a button to copy, so let's copy this. It's supposed to not show anything. It's supposed to show an error, but it does not. So for instance, if I do flight stick, because I know flight stick is not implemented. If I go for flight sticks here, and I say it should be saying to me that flight stick is not implemented when we go to, let's say, iOS, for instance. So you can see here that it tells me that flight sticks is not implemented in Uno, and there's a link to go take a look at what that means. But it should also say this for flight stick flight stick added, and you can see that when you F12 into it, so to go to definition, you're going to see that there's a not implemented attribute that's set on the event. In the same way that flight stick has the not implemented attribute, but the second one is not notifying that it's not implemented. So we're going to be changing this so that the event is showing the right error. So to do this, we're going to do it first inside of Uno, inside of the Uno solution itself, and then we're going to be changing that to validate directly in the sample application that I just created. So we have a few tests that are already available, that have been implemented. So they're unit tests that can run self-contained, and that's pretty nice. So for instance, we have a few tests that say, so that one, we have the not implemented. We can see that we have a class that's there and not implemented, and we can say that, for instance, here, between those two things here, there should be an error that says it's not implemented. Make sure that make sure that's what you're trying to use. You can work around it by using something else, or to raise an issue on the Uno side saying, well, I need that feature, it's not available. How could you help me? So what we're going to do here is just modify that one. And we're going to say one event not implemented. So there's probably going to be multiple variations of that one. There's the, actually, we're not using raw literals, so we should be. Let's go use raw literals because they're so much better. So it should be tab. There you go. So I could probably go back a little bit. No, I have to tab out. Okay. There you go. So I have my raw literal. This is a nice feature, particularly if you're making, pieces of code like this that have particular tabbing instructions, and it will be following, which is not the case when you're not doing this using raw literals, that C# feature. Anyways, so we have the first way is if we're in a class that's implemented but has an event that's not implemented. So we're gonna try that first. So let's make an event that's of type action that will be called my event, and it is supposed to be doing. We're going to be creating an instance of the class here. And we're going to do something like this. We're going to do my event plus equal. And we're just going to be adding a single, just a delegate that will, or it could be a lambda, but let's do a delegate like this. If you're old enough, you know how to use those delegates like this. It's a syntax that's not, oops, sorry. It's a syntax that's not being used that much since probably C#. I don't know when lambdas appeared. It would be C# 4 or 5 maybe. It's not being used since then, but it was actually useful when you don't want to have parameters. Anyway, so that's what we have right now, and what we need to say is that, let's say here we should be having an error because using my event is not supposed to happen because its flag is not implemented. So we'll see if the test fails. So let's run that test and see what happens. Okay, so I do have a build error. What's the build error? Okay, so it's because I don't have 702.302. So we're doing this inside of Uno because we want people to, we want the build to just be on that particular version. But when you're developing, it's annoying. So what we do generally is go into the global JSON and comment out those two lines so that it just takes whatever version is local to your machine, and it generally works. Generally works fine. And there, it looks like the build didn't work. So let's go. Oh, it's because I'm not inside of the unit test solution. Okay. So the build starting, that's good. So yeah, we are always testing using the latest stable builds, and we're also building with the latest build of .NET. So 8.0.100 and 0, 100, just 0, because the 101 has issues, which is annoying. By the way, this is actually quite important. So if you're developing for mobile, make sure that you read that particular part. There are two issues that are part of the 8.0.101. The first one is a crash using when threading happens, and where the fix has been merged. It's not there in runtime, so we're expecting 102 to be available very soon. And there's another one that breaks Uno check because it doesn't upgrade properly, so we're also waiting for the update. But there's APR open, so we're hopeful that it's going to happen very soon. So if we go back to our Uno, we can see that the test has failed. Now, what's the reason for this? It says that there's a mismatch between the diagnostics return, which is we expected 1, and none were returned. So what we need to do now is to do the implementation. So making sure that what we've had here actually says that there's an error somewhere and that using an event is not proper. So to do this, we're going to go directly into the analyzer, and we're going to find the location where we're analyzing content. So we're doing a few things here. I can see that we were heavy on the line length. So let's be a little less intense there. So we have when we are creating an analyzer, we were basically saying that we're interested in this a few set of operations. So for instance, we're interested into invocations, object creation, field reference, and property reference. That's the four that we're looking, the 4 elements that we're looking for. And when we want to determine what we can do here, and the type of operations that are useful here. What I generally do is I go to it's .NET Lab, I think. Never remember the name by heart, but I think it's .NET Lab. Sharp Lab. I think it's Sharp Lab, is it? Yeah, that's Sharp Lab. Okay. So in Sharp Lab, what you can do, hey Limni, if I'm pronouncing it properly, thanks for joining. So I do go to sharplab.io, and then I create the code that I want to have here. And the code that I want to have is basically what's inside my test. So that would be actually both of those without some of the using. So we're just gonna pull some of it. So this is not used. This is not available for sure. I'm going to be changing the indentation a little bit. It's a bit too rough to read. So we have our event here. We have our event, and then we need to determine if we can actually use our event here using delegate. So what that tool does by default is just show you the unwrapped output. So what the compiler generates that will most likely end up in your assembly. But what we're interested in is the syntax tree. So it tells you what's everything from the compiler's perspective. And if we specifically are taking a look at for instance, the event here, we can see that there's an expression statement, and there's a simple member XX expression. But for some reason, we're trying to use that content, and it's it's an expression statement, but we're not detecting it properly. So what we should be doing is probably add support for add assignment expression, which is specifically that part of the expression. Or it's too far, but that's probably the right one. Okay, so you get the event assignment here. So we should be looking at the add assignment expression for which the event assignment is set. So we're going to try to find out those two and try to figure out if we can change something there. So we can add a new line for an operation kind. It would be no. Operation kind, that was I forgot already. Add assignment expression. No, okay, so that one is not there. And we were talking about operation, so add assignment expression. Maybe there's another one. So there was an operation event assignment. So we're going to take a look for event assignment. Maybe that's the one that we need. Event assignment. There you are. Okay, so that's the one that we need to take a look at and try to figure out if there's an event assignment, what we should be doing. So we were supporting some of those. So that was analyze operation. We got a few validation that would need to happen. It doesn't look like we're analyzing anything from the content. We're just taking the symbol from the operation. So maybe there's a little bit to do here. That's the one. Okay, so basically when we're getting there, so let's actually go and run the test and debug the test to see what we're doing. So we're at the right location. Is it the operation that we need? That I'm not sure. That's a field reference operator. That's a field reference, and that's not the one that we need. So field reference, that's not the one. Oh, no properties, no. Okay, so let's continue further. We get a property reference implement operation. That's not the one. Property reference, object creation, event assignment operations. That's the one that we're looking for. So in here, we can say that the code path is unreachable. So we definitely found the part that doesn't work for us. So we need to add a new operation for this. So there's probably going to be an I event assignment operation. There you go. Event assignment operation, and in that particular event assignment, we're probably gonna find something like event reference. No, that's not the one. So is there something that's of interest here? There's a language parent type. Resulting type of the operation. Probably not the one that we need. Actually, maybe. So let's take a look at type. What does it tell us? So can we move back to here? Yes, we can. Okay. So let's go to this one. And we can see that the event assignment operation type for this particular event is void, which makes sense, but it's not what we need. What we need is the type of the property, so probably the event reference. So that would be that one. So event reference, we can see that there's a syntax. We can see the type of the event, but that's not the one that we need. We get the event. Oh, there you go. So we get the event. So that would be event reference.event, and that one is likely to be a symbol. So we're going to try it out. So that would be event reference.event. Event reference.event. Okay, so there's no event here, probably because we need to cast it up. So what's the type of this? It's an I operation, so that's not going to help. So our event reference is an event reference implementation. So is it event reference operation? That's interesting, because that would mean that we can probably go for event reference operation, not event assignment operation. Let's try it with the reference instead. So we don't have to cast around. So we're going to be using event reference instead. Event reference implementation, and then we have it's not the right type. And we're going to be using, there's event, I think. There you go. And that one is an I event symbol, which is an I symbol, which is what we're looking for. That's fine. And instead of using the I, so there was event assignment, that would be event reference. So let's go for event reference instead. Okay. So we can run the test again with the debugger and see if we go at the right location. Okay, so we have our operation. So let's search for the operation that we need. It's property reference, object creation, event reference. So we have our event here, and we're trying to figure out if there's a not implemented. And it feels like we're missing something here. Eliminate. So what we're trying to do is to determine enhance the analyzer that tells that this is not implemented, so that it works for events. In this case, the event is not implemented, but it's not reported. We try to make it report the error. And we can see that it didn't flag anything, or maybe, oh, it's running multiple types. Okay, so it's running in parallel. And do we get something green? It's green. Great. Okay, that works. So we can see that now that event that is actually a not supported event, so it's marked as not implemented, it's flagged as not implemented properly. So if you want to test that out, what we can do is do some small manipulations here. So I'm going to be modifying the version of Uno that's used so that we don't override something that is a stable version. So we're going to go for the latest version of Uno. So I'm going to go and show you one of the tools that we use. which is NuGet Package Explorer. And I'm searching for Uno UI. The latest version is the latest dev version, I'm sorry, is going to be this version. So it's 5.1. And I'm going to be changing the whole thing to the latest. There you go. So now I'm going to let the restore process kick in so we can see that it's actually restoring content. And once we're done, we're going to be taking the output of the analyzer. Actually, it's probably already doing this properly. So let's go take a look at the analyzer if there's an override. No, it doesn't look like there's an override. Okay, so we're going to do it manually. So we're going to take the output of the build, which is not this one. We're going to take the output of that build. So at that location, no, not the tests, this one specifically. And we're going to replace the file directly. Oh, nope. We're going to replace the file directly into the NuGet cache. So to do this, we're going to go and pick the location of that analyzer, and it is here. Well, not that one. So that's the Uno analyzers. So we can find the location of that analyzer, and that's the location of the analyzer. That's from that version of Uno. So I'm going to close the solution so that it actually takes the right. It updates itself properly outside of NuGet. So we can take the analyzer from our build output and put it directly into the analyzers. So in general, what we have is a process that's called NuGet override. In general, it's not something that you need to do. You just need to specify the version. It will override automatically. But for some reason, it's not done for the analyzers. Probably an oversight because we generally don't have to debug that much the analyzers. So if someone wants to do it, be our guests. And now that I've updated the analyzer from the NuGet cache, then I can go and reload the application, and we can go directly to the page to see if we get our flight stick to report an error when we're running using that 8, and that's the case. There you go. So we have our flight stick added that's reporting as an error, saying that flight stick added is not implemented, and that we have the same behavior as flight stick here, which was a property and not an event. So that's interesting. We have that first test. We could probably add some more. So for instance, let's event add. We can just do the same thing, but with event remove, just to make sure that it does the right thing. And to validate that we haven't broken anything with running the other tests that are coming from that specific environment for the not implemented test. The not implemented analyzer in the test in Uno test. So we can see that we have 9 tests, and they're all passing, which is good, even with the removal here. So that's pretty nice. Good. So we have our change for the analyzer. That was a fast one, and we got something that will be helping users of Uno determine that something's not implemented Uno, even for events. So there you go. So I'll probably make just a small PR. Oh, well, not PR, but just a branch for now. And we're going to be using the conventional commit notation just to make sure that we can follow up on the fixes that are done, just to make sure that they're relevant or not. And there you go. So we're going to make sure that we don't include the global JSON. It's not useful. And we can push that so that there's a PR that can happen afterwards. Great. So that was the first part of the stream, and we're at 50 minutes already. Time flies. Well, no, actually, I have a question for all the people that are on the stream right now. Do you prefer to have your streams with the IDE in dark theme or light theme? And I'm asking a question because when we did our session at UnoConf in November, we were asked to have our IDEs to be in dark theme, and in .NET Conf for the year before, they asked the presenters to have their Visual Studios and IDEs in light theme. So I'm wondering if there's anything that changed in between, and if you have any preference there, let me know. I personally prefer dark theme for a variety of reasons, but maybe there's something else that you're interested in with the light theme that I don't know about. So that's it. Let's go to the second issue. So the second issue, unless we need to go back to this part, I'm just going to drop everything in there. So our second issue, and we're going to be taking a look at it a little bit for now, and if we can't find anything, particularly with regards to .NET 8, we'll figure out if there's something that we can change either inside of Uno, setting the culture differently or not, but maybe it has changed. Okay. So we can pick the sample that was part of the issue. So we can, I don't like that menu. I'm gonna I'm gonna be removing it very soon. Okay, so Limni is using a light version. Okay. But if there's a stream that uses dark theme, is it something that causes you trouble, or was it fine? Okay, so we have our app here, and let's open it and try to repro using .NET 8. Because it's probably using .NET 7 with a quite older version of the whole thing. There's a UWP head. We don't care about that one. So which version is it using? So it's using .NET 8, but a very early version of .NET 8. So we can probably change that and upgrade to .NET to Uno 5 as well. Maybe there was something that was changed in between. So let's do this. Oh, nope, not that one. So let's see what we can do with Uno there. Does it provide? So there were changes that were done in Visual Studio in recent versions so that the updates are done properly. So we can probably let's see what this kind of update is providing us. Should be working fine, but still. And that's something that was changed in between because there were issues with conditional NuGet packages. Oh, okay. So the application is quite old. So it's targeted as .NET 5. Okay, so let's move it to .NET 8. We can do the same update again. Okay, so it seems to have worked. There we go. So 808, 50, 143, good. And let's see if we start the app, what kind of issues we get. Okay, so we have a global JSON that's specified. It's definitely going to be causing trouble. We can certainly remove it. It's a very old sample. And let's see if we have the same issue with .NET 8. So it's a culture issue, and let's see if we get something different. So I don't, certificate is invalid. Okay, so probably the trust is not, didn't work properly. Okay. Nope, still. Okay, so let's go for HTTP instead of HTTPS. I'm not going to set up that. I'm not going to set that up right now. That's the one. There you go. Okay. So it says when we're moving here, it's supposed to be changing or failing, but for some reason it's not failing anymore. So maybe there was something that changed in between. So maybe .NET fixed the issue. That could definitely be. What we can do is go back in versions. What we can do is probably just go, let's go for .NET 7. We're going to go to .NET 7 and we're going to go back to Uno, the previous version of Uno, the Uno Bootstrapper. And that was 7031. So let's try with this version. And see if we get something different. Okay, so it's still not failing in .NET 7, or maybe did it refresh properly? Okay, so it's still not failing. So maybe there's something else that's causing the issue to happen. And from what I could remember, there were issues with threading. So if I do something like this, for instance, if I await task.delay and I put a small delay in there, is it still failing? So I'm using async void. Please don't do this in a production app. Okay, still not having the issue. Okay, it's still having an issue because it's ES instead of ES, but you know, the override. I mean, it's not the same. It's not having the same issues as what it's having here. So, I mean, my browser is using the US culture. So maybe there was something there that was not reproducing properly. So this is not causing issues. Let's see. What if I do dispatcher? Why don't I have dispatcher? Is it a Windows one? It is a Windows one. Okay, so it feels like there's an issue with oh, that's probably why. That's a page. Dispatcher, there you go. Okay, so that template was pretty old, so it was missing a few pieces. Okay, so if we're doing run async, we're providing the normal, and instead of executing directly, we're raising it up that way. Maybe there's going to be a difference there. So we're still back with a .NET 7, and I wonder if there was a problem with the .NET 8 version that we were using originally in Uno platform. Maybe that's what's causing the issue to not happen again. So I'm going to be using the original version that was in the file. Let's see. So it was .NET 8, but it was built using an older version of .NET 8. So I don't think I can use the same version. Probably going to have to redo the same version that we had originally. Okay, so let's take a look at the original app. Oop. I'm going to extract it again and just take the same version that we had originally. So we had, we're going to take the exact same version. No changes at all. So, and see if we can reproduce. Maybe it's completely fixed, which would be fine. Because the 8.00 dev 92 was a version that was probably released somewhere in probably a year ago. It was using very early versions of Uno and .NET. So maybe that is what was causing the issue. So it's still not reproducing. Is it happening again? Oh, there you go. Okay, so that happens there. Okay, so really with that version, so if we're running without the dispatcher and we're running explicitly with that content, this happens with that version of the bootstrapper. It doesn't happen with .NET 7. It may happen with a different version. So let's say I upgrade to the latest 808. Just maybe it was an issue with Uno at the time. Could be. So now I've updated .NET 8 to latest build. So this is latest version of .NET 8. So 8.01. Okay. So this is happening here with that particular version. So maybe it was fixed in Uno 5. That could definitely be. So we can see that the latest version of Uno .NET doesn't have an impact on the issue. So now what we can say is it something that was fixed in a later version of Uno? So Uno 4.8 we had at that point. So if we go for, we have a free list here. So let's go for 410.34. So 410.34, which is latest version of the 4 branch. Let's see if it repros for that one. So we get to let the IDE fetch all the packages. There you go. That was done. So let's see if we have the same issue this time. And so if it's fixing at Uno 5, that's fine as well. It's just wanted to make sure that we were producing in the right context. I see McNets is here. It's almost the end though. Thanks for joining. So we're trying to figure out if there's an issue that got fixed either in Uno or in .NET. Yeah, thanks McNets. Yeah, it's been a while. Lots of things to do inside of Uno, particularly with Uno 5 and the fallout of what happened after Uno 5. So now it's a bit more stabilized. So I do have more time to spend on streaming. Okay, so we got our newer version. Seemed that it was an issue that was specific to Uno 5, to Uno 4.7 for some reason, because it got fixed afterwards. Because probably so 4.8 had the issue, 4.10 didn't have the issue. Just out of curiosity, let's try with 4.9. 4.9.49, maybe what got fixed in the middle. 4.9.39. Let's keep the restore happen. So restore is still happening, so that's why the build is not starting right away. Oh, maybe I didn't use the right one. Okay, 4.9.42. Okay. Okay, so it was really an issue of or Uno 4.8 because it doesn't seem to be reproducing directly here. Okay, no, that's good. So we have an issue that got fixed, definitely, because it was happening originally with the sample. It doesn't happen anymore. So one less issue in the backlog. So that's it for today. It was nice to stream again after a short break, and I hope to see you next week so we can go and figure out what issues to take a look at. And if you have any questions or anything like that, drop by during the stream, and I'll be glad to answer questions. I see McNets is asking, I need to work on the community toolkit. Is there a sample project that to make tests? Yes, there is. There is, and you can go take a look at the Uno, or actually the Uno version of the toolkit has its own sample project that you can test directly into. But there's also the newer version of the community toolkit that's still being worked on to be compatible with Uno 5. And I hope that we can we've been helping the team, the community toolkit team, to get there. So so stay tuned. That was nice. That was nice to be able to work with those guys again. So that's it. Thanks everyone, and until next week, happy coding. Bye for now.